Y'all about to get this fucking work, boy. What's going on, y'all? J Fingers. Let me tell you, y'all got me so worked up. I had to break out the Tito's. I only got a little bit left, too. But I had to get into the Tito's. This video is not sponsored, but if Tito's would ever like to sponsor future videos, I'm more than happy to talk to y'all about that. Any case, this video, it's interrupting the flow of videos that I had planned out, but I felt that it was necessary to make and get up as soon as possible. It's a very controversial topic, and I'm just gonna hit y'all with it. I'm not gonna delay anymore. Purple Rain is a musical film. I mean, that's it. That's the tweet. You're probably wondering, why the hell am I even making a video about this? I don't know, a while back, I was on Twitter, and I tweeted about how Purple Rain was a musical. And one of my buddies replied, he thought that no, it's not a musical. He gave his reasons why. And, we had a little dialogue about it, finished, right? I don't know why, but he brought it back up tonight. Just tweeted out, and I know that Jay will disagree with me, but Purple Rain is not a musical. And I replied, well, in fact it is. Then some random guy jumped in talking about facts gotta be true, player, and he tweeted some bullshit. Which is fine. Twitter's an open forum, so people will jump into conversations and they will say things that are on their mind. That's fine. That guy could tweeting what he wanted to tweet. But see, the thing is, like my buddy and the folks that were kind of saying the same thing that he's saying, or that, just don't think that Purple Rain is a musical, they have a very narrow definition or narrow idea of what a musical is. I'm going to define what a musical film is, and it's very simple. A musical film is a film in which there are numerous musical numbers and performances. That's it. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. I mean, yes, the musical numbers have to be performed by the characters, but I mean, that's it. It's not any more complicated than that. But people want to assign, all these, parameters and criteria. Oh, people have to stop in the middle of what they're doing, and they have to sing and look at the camera, and they have to sing the dialogue, and they have... No. That's all good and fine and extra. And yes, a good majority of musical films, they do that. That's what we're used to. If you think about films like The Sound of Music, or I don't like The Sound of Music. Or you think of any of the like Fred Astaire, like Singing in the Rain, the Gene Kelly movies. You think of all the Disney movies from the 80s and 90s, like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, The Lion King. They all have musical numbers, and when most people think musicals, they think, yeah, the characters stop and they sing the dialogue, and that's all fine and good. Look, that's all fine and good. There's been a resurgence of musicals, ever since Chicago. I think it was ever since Chicago won Best Picture. We've seen, films like The Greatest Showman and La La Land, and I don't even know what else. Other musicals have come out. But here's the thing. That's just one type of musical film. Musicals are not constrained by that whole notion of the characters stop and they turn to the camera and they wink and they start to sing and they sing the dialogue. All musical films don't have to follow that. And that's all I'm trying to say, is that Purple Rain is a musical that does not follow that format. And the great thing about it is, it's still a musical by definition, because the characters in the film still perform. Prince performs. Apollonia performs. Morris Day performs. There are all these performances, and they are integral to the story. They do move the story forward, and they do convey characters' emotions. You're not going to tell me otherwise. Are you seriously going to say that Prince's performance of Darling Nikki doesn't have a profound effect on the story? Are you really going to tell me that performance and his performance of Purple Rain don't convey his emotions and what he's feeling? Fuck. Like, are we watching the same film when we watch those performances? I mean, yeah, it's not the same as, everyone freezing around the main characters and Prince, sings his heart out, plays instruments, or, does some choreography or anything like that. It still accomplishes what those traditional musicals do. And I know there's going to be some jackass out there that's going to be like, oh, well, if you're going to consider Purple Rain a musical, then how about something like Back to the Future? After all, Michael J. Fox, his character gets up on stage and performs and sings and dances. Or you might say something like Revenge of the Nerds. There's a musical performance in Revenge of the Nerds. They get up on stage and they rap and they dance and they play music. Or even, like, what is the film? It's one of the trip films, Road Trip or Euro Trip. Scotty Doesn't Know. And look, it plays, it's funny and it plays into the plot. But the difference is, Back to the Future doesn't have multiple musical performances. Revenge of the Nerds doesn't have multiple musical performances. And yes, Scotty Doesn't Know is a repeated kind of gag throughout the film, but they're not full performances every time you hear the song throughout the film. Those examples, that's why, I'm not going to say Scotty Doesn't Know. I know that's not the name of the fucking film, but it's not a musical. However, I do have a list of films that I do consider musicals because just like Purple Rain, they're not traditional musicals, but they feature musical performances by the characters that either impact the story or convey emotion, what the character's feeling. I'm talking about like 8 Mile or the Pitch Perfect movies or House Party, Hustle and Flow, Straight Outta Compton. Y'all like those examples? I'm really gonna piss y'all off now. How about movies like Footloose or Dirty Dancing or Saturday Night Fever or Flashdance? Yeah, I know that pisses y'all off. But again, those are films with multiple musical numbers, musical performances. May not be people singing, a little more dancing, a little more choreography, but each of those numbers advance the plot or convey what that character is feeling at the time they're performing. And for people who want to say those are not musicals, yeah, they're not traditional musicals. They're not fucking Singing Crab, Frozen audience musicals. The beauty of film and film genre is that you can have different types of film exist within the same genre. For instance, I'm just going to use what I think is like, the easiest example. Let's take horror, right? You can have a film like Saw. It's undeniably a horror film, horror franchise, very bloody and scary and terrifying or whatever. But then you can have a film like The Blair Witch Project, which doesn't rely on the same type of scare tactics. It doesn't rely on gore, but it still falls into the horror genre. And no one in their right mind is going to come and tell me that Blair Witch isn't a horror movie because there isn't some maniac running around dismembering people. You sound like a fucking fool. Well, I'm here to tell you, with musicals, same thing. You sound like a fucking fool if you're just going to adhere to this narrow kind of view of what a musical is. Told y'all was going to get this work. But even after all this, I know that some of you are still going to hold fast to your opinion. You're going to be like, I don't care what you say. You can talk about parameters and genre all you want to. To me, a musical means that character stops and sings and looks at the camera and that's fine. If that's what it means to you, you can hold on to your small, honestly shitty opinion. If that is your definition and you're going to hold fast to that, then you go right ahead. Just know that I'm lumping you in with people like flat earthers and anti-vaxxers. You're just unreasonable and you're unwilling to look at things from a different perspective and accept the truth that you are incorrect in this situation. Because at the end of the day, if Variety is going to call Purple Rain the musical that defined the 80s, and if AFI, the American Film Institute, is going to put Purple Rain on their ballot of greatest musical films of all time, yeah, I think I'm going to rock with them. They know what they're talking about. You fucking don't. See what happens when you get a little bit of vodka in me? So yeah, Purple Rain is a musical film. Deal with it, motherfucker. Alright, that's it.